The car scene in Singapore makes me feel more connected, specifically because it's a small community. I would say that sense of family connection is what I enjoy the most. Hi, I'm Shane. I'm 23 years old and I work as a production supervisor and I drive a 1972 KE coupe. I grew up in Sri Lanka until I was around 17, 18. Then I decided to move to Singapore to study. And after I finished my studies, now I'm working. I spent a lot of time with my dad, who used to buy cars and fix them up and flip them. I spent all my free weekends at the mechanic shop with my dad. And every time I'm there, I would bug the mechanic with questions on how does this part work? How does the engine work? A lot of those memories are what I would say fueled my passion, so they are my favorite. He was also very proud of a lot of the things that I did, and when I told him I'm gonna go to Singapore and study mechanical engineering, he was the happiest person. Sri Lanka is a little bit different. You still have high taxes, but you don't have a COE, so you can keep the car as long as you want, as long as you pay your road tax and everything. A lot of the cars have more freedom to be modified in Sri Lanka. So you have a lot of car fans who do a lot of modifications on their car. Singapore, what I see is it's a smaller community. You tend to know most people in the community if you spend enough time with them. So in Sri Lanka, it's a little bit different because there's a lot of people involved. So the Duchess is a 1975 Mercedes 115. It's a 240D, one of the most reliable workhorses that Mercedes had put out. It's actually got an interesting history on it. It was owned by one of the senior politicians in one of the previous presidents. So when this politician had the car, he actually had been shot at while he was inside the car, but fortunately he escaped with no injuries whatsoever. But then he considered this his lucky car, and he's never sold it or left it out of the family for about a couple of decades until the previous owner, who I bought from, had gotten it, and he was also a family friend. So I was the only true outsider owner of this. So it was used all the way from new without any major restorations. There was some work done on the engine, but it was in great condition. The seats, the interior, and even the running gear was still in good condition at the point when I bought it. When you sit in that car, for some reason, it just gives you the impression that you just somehow time travel to the 70s. Actually, my current car does that too, but this one had a sense of imperialism in the sense that it seemed very grand. It would just start up, it's very quiet, and it's been well used by people who knew what this car was. But I couldn't keep it for long. And then I decided that it should go to someone who's willing to restore it. So I let it go sometime last year. When I moved to Singapore to study, first thing I did, download Carousel, go on SG Carmart, and try to find a car that I could probably buy. Then I realized everything is really expensive. And then I was really shocked. And then I read up on the COE system. I read up on the taxes. And then I realized, oh, there we go. That makes sense. That's when I was a little disappointed that I wouldn't, get a car immediately. But then somehow made my way there. This is a 1972 Corolla KE20 coupe. I believe most of its life it's spent in Malaysia, where it was restored a few years ago, and then it was imported to Singapore last year. When I got it, there were a couple of things that I immediately figured out I wanted to change, right? So this is more of a long-term project where I know progressively what I'm going to improve and change in the car, make it more of a drivable classic. But even at this point, with the bare bones stock configuration of everything, it's still really fun to drive. Interior is very, very clean after the restoration, especially. But all the parts and the seats are original. So it's a pretty good example of a KE20 in my opinion. If you actually compare it right next to another car, it's actually pretty small. So it's very convenient to use in Singapore. It's really fun, it's light, it's fast. And I think the point when I knew I wanted this car, because I was looking at a lot of other classic cars as well, is the point when I drove it. And I realized how much fun it was. And that's when I made the offer to the previous owner. Sometimes it does give you little hiccups here and there. Like for instance, this KE20 tends to overheat in certain conditions. Little things that don't work. But I think, to me, I don't get annoyed by them. It's just, oh, this is wrong. Okay, it's something for me to fix. This has character, this has a uniqueness. I would say the car scene in Singapore makes me feel more connected, specifically because it's a small community. And I know a lot of people, I've met a lot of friends, and it makes me feel like I belong. Because like I can just drive into any car meet, and then there's gonna be like 5 faces I know. So that makes me feel like just not another person at the car meet, but somebody who's part of the community, and we can have a discussion on something, or we can just have some fun when the cars are there. So I would say that sense of family connection is what I enjoy the most. Then you'll realize there's a lot to enjoy from these classic cars. Looking back, I definitely think that my passion, the point is, if you have a strong sense of passion for cars, it doesn't have to be where you are located geographically, right? It doesn't have to be limited to a specific set of people. You can always make new friends. And that's something that I really enjoy being a car enthusiast. Passion for cars is something that is so strong that whatever limitations that comes your way, no matter what it is, if you really have a passion, I think you can figure something out to get what you want.